Happy Friday, Paladins fans, and welcome into day 2 of week 1 of the PPC Phase 2. Lots of numbers going on here. It is Dulcin and Fawn for set number 1 of the day. Fawn, a great day of action, I think, yesterday. A couple of our sets went the distance. PPC looking very competitive from what we've seen in the first couple of games.
Right, exactly. And I think that is a testament to how far some of these teams have come, especially when they work together as well as they do. And with
Right.
that being the situation, you have a lot of these teams that are coming in trying to prove themselves, especially after the relegations, all of these new teams that are coming in trying to make a name for themselves, along with the fact that they are all together trying to make sure they earn that top spot and do the very best as they can. Means that we're going to see only the best caliber of games that we can.
That's right. A lot of, we had a 100% conversion rate between teams
Yeah.
down for relegation and then new teams taking those spots. So lots of hunger from, one tier down now moving themselves up to the PPC here, a chance to make a name for themselves, as you pointed out. We're starting the day over in Europe, though. We started the day in Europe yesterday, saw some back and forth competitive action through, 3, 4, 5 games we even had there.
Right.
Most of the games in that one went all 7 points. So Interstellar Mixalizub is where we started off yesterday, 2-3, as Mixalizub picked that one up. We're going to be starting with ChromaSpace and Yoinkers here. We'll also have Ignite Gaming versus Tempest team later on. That'll be our second set of the day. And then we'll round out the day 2 broadcast here with Flashpoint up against Snappin'. So lots of fun to be looked forward to here. Fawn, you start to look over towards this matchup. Europe, it's an interesting region, I think, to look at. One where D69 was the org that kind of everyone was familiar with, still exists in some capacity over here in Europe. Just, so some name changes here and there. But let's look at Yoinkers up against, it's, what are we, I just said it, Yoinkers against ChromaSpace.
Yeah.
But I speak for a living. I swear. I know how to do this. Yoinkers up against ChromaSpace. Coriel, Nepo, Nalubka, Rainy, and Ovim. That might be the team to look at here in this matchup.
So with some of those names, for those of you who maybe were fans of Paladins last year, that were more so fans of the esports scene that were last year, a few of those names were very, very present in the Paladins minor league at that point in time. So, of course, no surprise to see these guys back here, a part of a new team trying to once again make a name for themselves and see if they can fight against some of the big dogs, right? Europe has been one of those regions that we've seen that has sort of brought out different sorts of compositions that they aren't afraid to experiment with.
No.
While Brazil has been something that wanted to keep that more standard composition with the 2 tanks, 2 DPS, 1 support, and North America still being a little bit more flexible, but not as flexible as some of the European players have proven themselves to be. So with that being the situation, it'll be interesting to see how these guys compared to last year's performances that they had in the minor league to this now current Paladins Pro Circuit.
And Yoinkers, the team that ChromaSpace will be going up against, some names you'll recognize there: Good Lad Raji, Etsu, Zarini, some big names there on that team as well. Zarini maybe more so than all, carried his weight surely in the PPL just last year. So this is going to be a fun one to follow along with, especially over in Europe. I think a very contested region here. So early on, you need to be getting these wins under your belt as early as possible. Give yourself some momentum early on here. But I kind of want to jump back to a point you made there, Fawn, where there's a lot of variety as far as meta goes. We've seen, over in North America, the Sanguine guys love the triple DPS. They even brought out a standard composition, 2 tank, 2 DPS, 1 healer yesterday. It's an interesting meta, I think, to follow along with. Do you think any type of composition has really stood out to you just yet as the best one, or is there enough variety that maybe any playstyle can work in the right situation?
I think for what it is that I've seen for most of the time of this new season that is approaching Paladins, I feel like the compositions can be all over the place. I mean, we've seen the 3 DPS, 1 support, 1 tank. We've seen the 2 support, 1 DPS, and a tank to follow that up as well. Like, we've seen a variety of things that have been brought out. So I don't necessarily think that there is one composition that people can stick with. I feel like there's enough variety due to the changes in some of the characters, the cards as well, and IO always being a factor, even though that's not the case with the PPC currently right now in this current time due to a bug. The entire situation in its own right means that they will be bringing out a lot of the stops, and it could be any sort of composition they feel like, and that's a perfect thing that ChromaSpace and both Yoinkers are doing right now. So
I agree. It's going to be a lot of fun to start this one off. Shattered Desert is a map that we saw, once, maybe twice yesterday. And fun compositions from both teams. The Damba, Ashe, Atlas, Cassie, Kinessa for one side, and then Oven's going to be piloting the Furia. Vivian, so popular in the current meta. Victor as well. And an Androxus. You look at this ChromaSpace draft fawn. Talk about hit scan damage. Havens might be more important than ever if you're Yoinkers.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what's so prominent about these characters, especially if you pick Andro. You pick Andro, let him through in a right game. He's gonna slap your team, pretty much. That's just how it's going to end up being, right? And that's just prominent to how Androxus not only plays, but how you see that being the case with Vivian as well. Lots of Havens are going to have to come online. You're going to have to make sure that you keep her in her lane as much as possible, which it seems like Goodlad is trying to do, but there's already a first blood inside of Logic.
Yeah, Logi's going to find the opening kill here. Etsu follows up with one of his own, so Yoinkers off to a good start, absorbing a good bit of the damage that we figured ChromaSpace would be putting out. Now they're going to get aggressive, push themselves forward. Goodlad hanging around this right-hand side as Coriol and Ovim have to back their way to the large curved portion outside of their base here. ChromaSpace just lurking around that side here. 84% already for Yoinkers. Might be Adium that has to dash his way in. Does get the overtime touch, tosses up the reversal there, but Etsu, a nice double kill for himself, puts down a couple. Nepo trades out with one here. Overtime is on, but the trades all for Yoinkers here at this point outside of just a few, but Goodlad has found two. Logi snapped one up as well, and Yoinkers are going to take point number one.
Yeah, I was actually watching this Kinessa for most of the time, even though the fact that even though Chris had the camera on the Kinessa, I was thinking about it like, really, what's the thing it is that she can do, right? Because of the fact that we haven't really seen her be as flexible as we've seen Strix last year in the PPL, but we see Kinessa every now and again. But that goes to show, and I think that's point of the reason why Kinessa is able to do so much, because you got Victor, Vivian, Andrew's the only flank. He's going to draw a lot of eyes towards him, and he might get melted, especially due to the Atlas changes and buffs. His damage is almost out of this world, so it's going to be hard for him to try and open up those flanks, which means that Kinessa can do what she's doing right now. She's chilling, vibing in the back, hitting those shots that she needs to when picking off targets.
That's a great point, Fawn. You can get those eyes turned. You're doing a lot of your job there. Big fight here. Mr. Dominance rings down, but ChromaSpace have no leg to stand on. It's a triple kill down the stretch. Yoinkers will not be denied to ChromaSpace. Full on sweep here. One last chance maybe to respawn. Get out of your base here. Everyone mounted up. Goodlad's going to do a good job in finding some of those dismounts. Look at this, though. Very grouped up. Our ChromaSpace as the cart continues its long path forward. Barrage is going to ring down here from Nepo. Unable to find the final shot, but Adium sure does onto Etsu. Down goes to Cassie. Payload continuing to roll itself in. ChromaSpace finding the important trades. Disengaged from Yoinkers is complete, but Logi takes a couple with them.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it was I was saying before. You have the situation where Andrew's trying to create space for his team and trying to get drawn all eyes looking at him to try and see if he can at least pick off the Kinessa, but that's the problem. You got too many eyes looking at you. So when he's moving all the way around into the back line to try and keep an eye on that Kinessa, he's getting dealt with by the rest of the team because of the presence that they have to pretty much just sit back and chill, if anything. Like, Cassie's been able to hit her shots. Logi definitely has proven that he can hit his. So it's just a matter of biding his time, trying to do what he can, and this is why he's going up around the side with Vivian.
It's a good flank here. Rainy makes his way in. Dread Serpent's going to catch out the Vivian, only half HP. As Logi will find the final shot in. Double kill for Coriol as well as from Logi. So both teams trading out double side to side. 15 seconds left. Goodlad, the pivotal member of Yoinkers, I think, that needs to stay alive here in the next 10 seconds. Able to get in, grab that contest. 5 seconds left, though. Coriol is going to hold down this gap. Can you stop the body block? Not just yet. In goes Goodlad. Atlas is there as well. Barrage ringing through. Nepo. Barrage snags the kill there. ChromaSpace fighting tooth and nail around this cart. Looks like for the moment they're going to be able to find the trades that they need. Torini has to use that second chance. He's the last one in range. Overtime will expire. A gritty but well-fought defense by ChromaSpace.
Shoutouts to Nepo for using the barrage in such a pivotal way, because both times that Yoinkers were able to make it to point and try and gain their control, barrage was used both of those times. And both of those times they won the fight off of it, even if he didn't hit anybody with the barrage, right? Even if he was using it just to zone, it did spread out damage here and there. But a lot of the time, the kills were gotten based off of the other members of his team, because the fact that they would hear, "Oh, there's a barrage happening. We have to adapt to that situation." And people like Adium and the Vivian and Androxus were able to pretty much clean up from that point on, and it allowed Coriel to be able to move forward and have that space that he may have wanted to control on this terminus. So I mean, that was pretty much one off of the back of both of those barrages. Wow.
Well timed. Well timed from Nepo there. He's on a 9 streak now. He's affected 11 kills, so vast majority coming on his most recent life here. Top damage in the game as well. Finding good value on the defense. Good lad, maybe an opening for an Assert dominance here. There's the old up down. The Exiles, though, paired together. Not the best synergy between those two ultimates, but you've definitely locked down the target. Make no mistake about it. The reversal is up and down for Adium. Coriel will grab the kill here, but the Terminus, kind of the last man forward, unable to counter out any of that point capture here. Is going to use the reanimate. Interesting. The rest of his team was back and respawning anyway. Now he gets pulled right on back. Coriel, you've re-arisen from the grave right back to death, my man, and it's 72% already for Yoinkers.
Yeah, I would definitely say that's a big yikes at that point. I mean, I don't really know. I'm not sure why he would use that resurrection when everybody was already ready for it to be the case, because Etsu was already sort of moving out of the way in case he decided to, and then when he did, he got rewinded. He didn't have very, very little health, like Serene didn't time the rewind that well, but it was still a rewind, so he did still have a little bit less than max health. So they were just able to focus and burn him down before his team could even get back to where they wanted to be. Nobody was there to help him out on that revive, so it's just ended up being a waste.
Yeah, and I was concerned there in the mid a little bit about the Exiles used in conjunction with the Assert dominance. I mean, you get the stun onto targets that are already exiled, but really, I guess when you think about it, it's just kind of making doubly sure that your team gets those kills. The moment those Exiles time out, you better be sure that the kills are going to come through, and that's what Yoinkers was able to do. Logi pivotal in capturing the first point, now the second. Hopefully will play a big role in rolling this one in. Coriel goes down. Good lad snags one on a Nepo as well. The base is forfeit so far for ChromaSpace. Spawn, they got respawns here in 5 or so seconds, but ChromaSpace has got a minute and a half to hold this payload where it's at.
And they've already got the positioning it is that they want. I mean, look at how Etsu is playing with Good Lad over there on the right-hand side. They want to watch if anybody's going to come out of that spawn, which means if they don't, they're doing what they're doing right now, which is they're filtering all into one single location, and you have a situation like that where Terminus gets picked off almost instantly because you're funneling. You're running in through a specific area, and you're feeling good about that if you're the Cassie or if you're the Atlas, because that means that your divider can be placed however you want to, and that means that Cassie can target whoever she feels like. You're in a good enough spot if you're on the side of Yoinkers to be able to sit there and watch one single direction instead of worrying about a flank. You have that respawn timer, sure, like you were mentioning, but at the same time, they were already watching one side of it. If one of them would have split off, they would have been killed even quicker than they were that time. So, I mean, Yoinkers just played that to the best of their ability.
Right, very, very telegraphed maybe is your return to the fight. If you're ChromaSpace, you're respawning, and you kind of only got one option to go. And Coriel, the lone tank on ChromaSpace, got melted down early, and at that point, you're throwing DPSs onto the point, and never bodes well for you there. 3-1 now. Yoinkers a chance to take game number 1. Logi can maybe hit a few more of those pivotal snipes. This will be a lot easier off for Yoinkers. 5 members streaking out. Ultimate's really ready for both sides. Barrage pivotal on the one point that ChromaSpace is able to connect, maybe capturing the mid here. Canceled after just a couple of charges. There it is. The last couple will drop down. Etsu finds the kill here. Exiles working wonders out on the back line. Nepo absolutely deleted. Etsu finds that kill. The second chance, or the rewind rather, pulls back in at him. It's a double kill for Etsu. Make it 3 now for the Cassie. Can the 4th shot ring through? It's a double for Furzo and a triple for Etsu. Yoinkers running away with game number 1.
Yeah, absolutely just surgical. Just very, very procedural how they went about that fight. And the mini fights that we saw before then. The Exile to try and make sure that they started things off, even if the Barrage didn't get quite the hits it was they wanted on the side of ChromaSpace. Exile was already there because what they wanted to do was they wanted to get in a position, they wanted to be as effective as possible, and based off of that alone, they were able to win the game, cash out, and make sure they get their first dub.
You know, and what I really liked there from Yoinkers was kind of the way the Cassie and the Kinessa kind of worked in conjunction with one another. I mean, you see these snipers, and it's so important that if you're going to have, you know, the setup shot from a fully charged Kinessa shot, that you have that immediate follow-up damage. And they played off one another, I think, so well there. The Exiles, you know, you really get a magnifying glass on it towards the end of that game, and Exile connects over onto to the Victor. and then immediately the follow-up is there. I think this is a well-communicated win here for Yoinkers. ChromaSpace, that's tough. I mean, this one isn't even really all that close. You get kind of a one-sided defense for a point there on your side. Do you think this is one Fawn that is kind of brought about because of picks and bans? We obviously couldn't see that process, but do you think this is just a composition win for Yoinkers, or maybe just a better execution as far as game plan goes?
I definitely think it has more to do with the composition than anything else because
Sure.
of the fact of what I was saying beforehand, right? You have one flanker with Logi just sitting back there uncontested. There weren't many times that we saw Logi being taken out of the fight unless there was a situation where most of his team was already dead and he was one of the only targets remaining to be looked at, right? So with that being the situation, I would say that it came down to draft because of the fact that even though you have the Victor, even though you have the Vivian, the problem in its own right is more so just the fact that you have two of those backliners that are going to sit there and they're going to be able to, sure, pump in as much damage they want to into the front liners. But
Right.
Logi and Etsu were part of the main reason as to why they were able to win that. Everyone had great plays and overall
Good point.
great teamwork, but at the same time, Logi and Etsu were pretty much uncontested for the most part. Andro would try and flank, do whatever it was that he could, but he even couldn't. He even had to resort to playing backline because of how often he was getting picked off in a lot of those fights. So with that being the case, I could say that it came down to draft, honestly.
Right. The kind of counterplay maybe to what ChromaSpace was bringing, just a little bit too strong because of a lot of the matchups that they had on their side. Game number 2 between Yoinkers and ChromaSpace will be taking place on Stone Keep. Obviously, a tried and true map here in the PPC and the Paladins competitive scene in general. Atlas, Genos, Kanessa, and Nara banned out from this one, Fawn. You can see the team compositions here on your screen. Zarini, I think, played a great role in game number 1, but he's going to be over on the Ashe this time around. I think Ashe is starting to find some good value as well. Obviously, numbers changed kind of in the offseason and recent updates as well. Can now toggle on or off that kinetic burst, but I think just the ability to space control is always going to keep Ashe, excuse me, in an interesting spot.
Right. And you also have to look at, too, one of her greatest counters that she has. So, right, you have Khan being one of those things. And the changes to him, especially from his stun being around 2 seconds to going down to at least 1 second, almost just a single second in terms of this recent, in the light of this recent patch, means that you'll be probably seeing a lot of her end up being played, especially with the resilience changes as well. So with all of that being taken into consideration, if you want somebody to be able to create the space, then that's exactly the character it is that you would want to pick. And you see right now that despite having the Rom and Ashe in its own right, ChromaSpace are still dominating this because of the fact that they have that Cassie to sort of, they don't really have a shield to try and protect them on the side of Yoinkers.
Yeah, Yoinkers cannot buy space right now for any amount of money. ChromaSpace has got it all hoarded on their side of the map. 90% for the blue side of things here. Rom is going to juggernaut his way through the mid, both off tanks for Yoinkers off on the right-hand side here. The fight will commence indoors, and a Cursed Arm starts off from Nepo. Snags a kill over on the Logi. Adium gets a kill there as well. 2-for-1 trade so far. ChromaSpace a little bit better off for it. Bye-bye healer. Maldamba gets flanked around by Nepo here, and a double kill for the Androxus will put Yoinkers down quietly. ChromaSpace will get their first point.
Yeah, most of the fight happening towards the mid, mainly on point or at least by keep. Yoinkers' compositions tells me that they more so want to try and be able to fight as much as they want to be able to capture the point. Because as soon as Rom is there, as soon as Rom is either looking at point or trying to get there, or Ashe is trying to protect as much as she can, what ends up happening almost instantly is that Cassie hits him, potentially big game, and then that's pretty much all she wrote for Rom, right? Rom has to reconsider the options it is that he would want to take to try and make sure that he can end up creating that space for his team that makes him so effective. But at this point in time, that's just not the case. They were able to get a pick, which is why ChromaSpace were able to be forced back just a little bit. But it's on this push right here that I would keep my eyes on for sure.
Well, Adium is going to do wonders as far as opening up space to get out of this lower ground church side. You just pop up that power siphon, move your way forward. A Dread Serpent up onto the high ground, countered out just a little bit by the Hexafire here as Coriel has found the kill over on the Logi. The high ground now somewhat forfeit, not completely. You still have Zarini there controlling the space very well, as we know Ashe should be able to do. The up down from Adium, not quite connecting right where he wanted to go, but kind of split. You get this the sort of split vibe from Yoinkers right now. You know, you got your Rom off on one side. You look at this, Victor, you can kind of see the silhouette over here to the left. You know, Zin, Etsu's way off on one side. ChromaSpace splitting up Yoinkers very well, but Maybe that's what Yoinkers want. They want to take this fight on many fronts and prevent ChromaSpace from moving themselves forward as one big unit.
Yeah, and that's the thing, though, is that while that entire fight was happening up on the high ground, at least into the spawn of Yoinkers, that ChromaSpace were trying to make this cart, trying to push it around the edge. What ended up happening was that Rom was diverting the attention already on the side by Church and by where the point had originally been captured, is where Rob was, because he was diving to the back line trying to draw the eyes there, and even though they weren't able to get the kills from it like how they wanted to, it still proved effective because they were able to regain ground. However, like I keep saying beforehand, is this situation right here. It is on the pushes that every single time that ChromaSpace are able to actually make do with what it is that they have. Their composition is allowing them to be able to push up on high ground, be as aggressive as they want to, and because of that situation, it is hard for Rom to really dive into the back when everyone's full sitting in a certain direction. It means that he has to change his own position.
It's a good defense so far here from Yoinkers, and with 1 second left, there will be a contest. But how long will this overtime last? A couple dashes away, keeps the frontliners and backliners alive here. Cassie has to dodge roll away from the fight. Etsu in the fray here and stays alive, but finally gets taken out by Koryo. Laji has to kill himself as well. Nepo starting to find some value on this Androxus here in this game. ChromaSpace better off for it. Some good trades out here from Yoinkers. Get the feeling this one might be contested for a little while. Neither team able to force one another off just yet. Rainy finds one. Etsu, though, gets rid of the Cassie. With no frontliner in range, Yoinkers is going to get pushed back in ChromaSpace. Unsuccessful in capping the point there, 1-1.
Well, they have their ultimates this time around on the side of Yoinkers, and there aren't many people on the side of ChromaSpace that can sort of counter and assert dominance of anything. There's not really a lot of CC. You can use the disengage bolt, sure, to disengage Zarini away from his ultimate and make sure that you can get that singular pick, but I was more so also looking at the fact that Rom is there as well. Rom is indeed in this game. So with the assert dominance, I can't imagine that Ash wouldn't start that aggression without Rom to back it up. Along with the Dread Serpent and the Barrage, you have the peel and the damage to make sure you can cash out on that. But the Reanimate, the Hexafire, the Scout, the Accursed Arm, you have a lot of stuff on the side of ChromaSpace too that could be just as effective if utilized properly. So it's just going to come down to usage of ultimates.
I'm interested to see that Damba is still seeing good play despite resilience being very cost-effective nowadays. Zarini is going to slam down the assert dominance, though. Oben picks up the first kill of this one. Kinetic Burst knocks a couple back. Zarini is going to have to retreat here. Nobody from Yoinkers really in range to help him out as Nepo has pushed back Laji. You can see what Yoinkers was looking to do there. Unfortunately, doesn't work out as ChromaSpace holds strong. And talk about the performance that Nepo has had on this Androxus. A complete turnaround from what we saw from Andro on Shattered Desert.
Yeah, we were talking, well, I had mentioned specifically that the usage of ultimates is what it's going to come down to, and that was literally it. The assert dominance was there. Sure, I was right on the fact that, you know, he used the assert dominance to try and create space. Rom was there with him, but, I mean, Oben picking off Zen along with the rest of his team means that they had the control the entire time. The assert dominance was trying to start things off, but ChromaSpace were already like, I mean, we already had control of the situation before this even happened. So, with that being the situation, they captured themselves another point. Their positioning with them grouping up was played very, very well, which is what allowed that assert dominance to not find a lot of value. As soon as they saw Ash, they immediately backed up. They didn't want to push. It didn't want to have anything to do with it. Even with Rom being on that sideline, it still was just as effective as the first one.
Well, and, you know, just before that big fight broke out, I was wondering about, you know, the decreased cost of resilience, even just by 50 gold, and still Yoinkers moving towards some of these CC-heavy ultimates between the Assert Dominance and the Dread Serpent. Koryo is going to get it done the damage way here. Billow keeps Etsu alive. A double kill, actually, for the Xin here. It's a Reanimate used off to the side. Looks like Yoinkers just going to run through this fight. Are you, what's the word I'm looking for? Intrigued, maybe? Surprised at all, potentially, that the CC heavy ultimate still prioritized here by Yoinkers, despite where Resilient stands?
A little bit, but at the same time, despite the changes to Resilience, for those of you who don't know, Resilience is now 150 in the shop, meaning that there's 150 every time it is that you end up buying it. So with that being the situation, it's very, very cheap, is what I'm trying to say, for you being able to purchase it, right? You can have a lot of CC pretty much immunity in situations like this, which means that at a certain point in time, you'll be able to not eat a lot of the CC ultimates and live very quickly in the game, quicker on in the game, earlier on in the game, as opposed to later. So to answer your question, Dave, I am a little bit surprised, but I feel like that split second can make that much more of a difference, because you're looking at the ultimates it is that they're trying to use them for, right? Dread Serpent, he's going to be trying to use that to peel or disengage fights, just like he did on the point. He used Dread Serpent to try and knock everybody off a point, stall them for a little bit longer, wait before ChromaSpace capture their second point for this map, right? Assert Dominance being utilized to try and zone people, see what it is that he can get going, see if he can start anything for his team, and try and create the space they need to be able to do that. They aren't worried about the stun so much as they are using them for the purpose, if that makes sense.
No, it does.
Like, the CC is great, but I'm a little bit surprised because they're relying so heavily on it, but at the same time, I understand why they want these ultimates to be used.
Right, you know, a good Dread Serpent, even if it just buys somebody half a second instead of, you know, the full 1 or 2 seconds or whatever, still finds some good value for it. And you know, Zarini, if he's there to set up for his team, you know, even with heavy levels of resilience, if there's good follow-up even in that small moment, things could certainly play out well for you. 1-for-1 trade, though. Both off tanks down. Overtime once more now on the payload push. Good Lad is going to juggernaut his way through. Logi is gunned down Ovim. Rainy falls down as well. And it's a double kill suddenly for the victor. Yoinkers locks down their second defense, and that's the second time in a row ChromaSpace has not been able to break that archway.
Right, and I completely agree with that in that entire situation. I mean, it's they still have their ultimates online. They were saving them sort of towards the tail end of that round for Yoinkers to be able to try and utilize what they can this upcoming round, obviously, which is why they didn't use those ultimates the last round. So with this being the case, they might try and go for it again. Zarini might try and opt to go for the keep, try and force people out as best as he can, use the assert dominance in whatever way that he can actually utilize it to see if he can create that space as last time. Rom, of course, will be there just like he was last time. And they're going to try, they might give it a second shot. If not, they might try and play a little bit slower. The Yoinkers might try and opt to stay a little bit more back and see if they want to concede the keep and otherwise try and fight for something else. They might try and go for the charger maybe.
This low ground side, where the Maldamba will take up his mantle here. Up on the high ground, Zarini again has found good lockdown here, but Yoinkers not in a position to immediately follow up on it. Barrage did pluck down some good damage, but not enough as Nepo's found the opening kill here in this one. Zarini has continued to find presence up on this high ground that is, I think, big value for Yoinkers, but Nepo's done a good enough job of forcing back the backliners that want to get into the fight. Cordial as well. Big Hexafire there. A Dread Serpent will catch out a couple, but not a lot of value. Good Lad.
Yep.
Finally staggered out. 30% for Yoinkers and 48% in climbing for ChromaSpace. So it's another mid-fight, Fawn, where it's looking like ChromaSpace is going to just start to run away with it.
And that's what's the craziest part about this, is that this situation happened literally last round, except for the fact that Rom was with Zarini that time around.
Right.
The same sort of situation happened. He tries to go up through keep by the stairs, use the assert dominance, locks people down, but Yoinkers is split. Etsu, just like last round, ends up getting taken out in the very, very beginning, which means that Yoinkers already has a damper on their strategy. If they wanted to try and create space, literally what happened when Ash went up there was she assert dominance and everybody just ignored her. Terminus had his siphon up the whole time. Everybody else was looking at her, sure, but nobody could do any damage to her, so they were just letting that happen. Everyone was still getting picked on the side. They just positioned around Banana and around the opening in that little in that little curve to make sure that they were actually able to get the kills that they wanted, which is why that fight didn't end up going the way that they wanted it to go that time around, again, for the second time.
Well, maybe what ChromaSpace need to do here to finally break through the Yoinkers defense is just keep momentum rolling from the mid-fight, and that's exactly what's happening here. Logi stays alive, counter rings through, but Coriel has made his way up to the high ground. Point finally captured in the back. ChromaSpace a chance to win the game with a successful offense here. And I think you gotta already like Fawn what ChromaSpace are doing, though it is slowed down. They've already tried to take up this high ground mantle here, find some trades. Etsu, though, puts an end to the offense of Nepo, and way out goes Coriel. See you later, Ruckus. Push back immediately. Yoinkers are going to take control of the high ground again.
Yeah, with that being the situation, obviously you're going to see that ChromaSpace are going to back up, wait for their teammate to respawn, see what it is that they can do to try and tackle the push once again, right? But at the same time, interested to see how what it is. Can we see the slash lines at all, Chris? Because I'm actually curious about something, and that's okay. That's it was more. I was more so curious about Logi because of the fact that
Right.
this being the case, I haven't really seen, as opposed to his previous performance on the Knessa during Shadow Desert, there's not much that's happening right now on the side of Yoinkers, and I think most of that has to be with the fact of Logi, not only on this victory, but because of this. And I'm so glad this is happening, even though he ended up dying. That situation right there, Logi being 5 and 9, mostly because of that ruckus. They're being able to dive and put a lot of pressure on a bunch of these different priority targets they might have. They're not allowing Victor to just sit there and farm as much as he can. Etsu goes down a lot of these earlier fights because of the aggression it is that they have. And so with that being the situation, you can be as aggressive as you want to, especially when you have that Ying ultimate, that illusory rip to back you up. You have that sustainability because she can just be anywhere that you might want her to be at in the first place. So with that being the case, you already see Oriel not stopping, see Foot not off of the gas pedal. Just wanted to make sure that he pushes in as hard as possible and creates that space for his team, which means that it's harder in retrospect for Yoinkers to try and respond.
Etsu's able to trade out 1-for-1. Nepo does the same. 1-for-1 on each other. Goodlad has now found an opening. Down onto the low ground. Going to force his way in. Swinging away is at him. Power Siphon is not going to save him. Reanimate ready. Reanimate not used this time around. 30 seconds left. Yoinkers seem destined for a 0.7 fight here. If ChromaSpace is not able to break through on this one. Illusory Rift was used, Fawn. I mean, quick enough charging that they'll have it at some point in the next mid-fight. But now it's only at 15%. You know, depending on how far this payload gets, you know, ChromaSpace moving it forward, building up that ultimate charge. But if this ends quickly here, that Illusory Rift could be a big one that's missing from the next mid-fight.
Right, it seems like it probably will end that quickly.
Yeah, 25.
It's only 25%
Whoa.
for the Illusory Rift to be able to be utilized. I mean, that's a pretty big damper on everything, especially when ChromaSpace are going to try and be the ones to try and lock down and secure a lot of those team fights. They've been doing very, very well. Once again, this is the same situation it is that we've seen multiple times before. Yoinkers, they're the ones that have the assert dominance. They have the ROM ultimate too. They have a lot of their ultimates. All of their ults are online just like last time. But it's a matter of how will Zarina use this assert dominance. He's tried it twice in Keep now. I can only imagine that at this point in time, if it's not working, he needs to group up with his team, try and see if they can get some of those picks and push in from a certain angle. They need to go in a church, make sure he locks down at least one of those choke points, and from that point on, he needs to try and move in to keep with the rest of his team and see what it is that he can do. But it's only up to them at that point, what the actual case will be.
Oven says, be quiet, Dolson, I've got morale boost 3, so that 35% will quickly become 100 on the Illusory Rift, depending on how much healing and how many shots are being hit. Won't have it immediately, though, just now, 50% on the healing ultimate. Zarini, yes, he does go for a different angle this time, but does not use the assert dominance. It gets taken out by Nepo. Hexafire around the corner. Won't really connect for any damage. Maybe a tickle right at the very end of it there. Etsu uses the spite, and that's a Dread Serpent over onto Adium, forcing out that Terminus from inside there. Yoinkers being taken out once again. 45% for ChromaSpace building up there. Reanimate, a Cursed Arm, both ready for the blue side. Assert dominance and barrage over for the red, but can they break back in at 69%? I'm not so sure.
I'm not so sure either, Dolson. I mean, that Dread Serpent being utilized in the very last second when nobody else was actually able to confirm on anything makes it a little bit unfortunate because they don't have it for this next fight at all. And along with the barrage to be utilized as well to try and keep that point control, Adium's just being healed up consistently time and time again, and it's making it harder for Yoinkers to try and really do much of anything in this scenario, especially when you have a triple kill on the side of Oriel. It makes it just that much easier for you. Rom can't even touch the point, just gets disengaged in big game the entire game. It makes it that much harder to try and secure another win for Yoinkers.
Yoinkers successful 3 out of 3 times on the defense, but unfortunately you can only defend so many times before you need to capture a mid to win the game. So this time around we're tied up. We're all locked up at 1 here. ChromaSpace kind of got blown out of the water on Shattered Desert, now make their way back into Stone Keep, win a very tooth and nail, very back and forth 7-point game on Stone Keep. Mid-fights completely figured out here for themselves. Game number 3, Fawn, though, that'll take place on Splitstone Quarry. Ruckus, Atlas, Genos, and Knessa banned out. I'm not at all surprised to see the Knessa ban after what we've seen from her so far this set.
Yeah, neither am I. Logi popping off on Shadow Desert definitely made a statement
It
for
does.
many of the games that will be played today for sure. I mean, like they don't want to let this man have Canessa, and based off of what we saw in Shadow Desert, I completely understand that entire scenario of not wanting Logi to be on a more comfortable pick for him that he very is clearly able to pop off on. So seeing that Canessa ban makes pretty much the most sense out of the red. It makes the most sense,
Right?
honestly, the Genos ban being gone, the Atlas and Ruckus. And here's what I'm more so upset about is the fact that Corvus hasn't been banned, but Corvus hasn't been picked the
True.
entire time. So I'm
Any
not too
any thoughts
sure.
as to why?
No, I literally can't tell you, Nelson. I mean, Corvus is in such a good spot right now. He's extremely strong character. I really don't understand why they would not pick Corvus in a lot of these compositions and these drafts. The pocket healing is just too much. He's able to pretty much spread out his
Yeah.
healing as much as possible. I mean, I just can't. I personally I can't see a reason as to why they wouldn't pick Corvus.
Right. You know, Genos has been banned out pretty heavily here up to this
Right,
point. All three
exactly.
games in a row, Genos is banned. Similar types of healing, you'd argue, to Corvus, and Corvus still not seen here for game number 3. Ovum right back onto that Maldamba. I'm going to assume it's Furzo. Admittedly, I have not casted that name yet, or Friezo maybe. It's Freeze God. It's FRZ, you know, from Freeze. Seems disingenuous to call him FRZ, though, so maybe FRZO. I don't know.
Okay.
We'll work something out there. The Ying for now, though, is what we'll stick with here. Yoinkers, ChromaSpace, all tied up at 1 as we head into Split Stone Quarry. No Canessa, but there is a Strix for Yoinkers fun.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I mean, like, obviously having the Strix on the side of Yoinkers makes it a lot more prevalent for them, like last time. I mean, you have the Cassie, you have the Andro, and you have Logi on another character that is pretty much a sniper, obviously. Well, very obviously a sniper, but based on how that went, I was going to sing the praises of Strix and how he can end up creating a lot of openings for his team, but based off of how this is going right now, I don't know if I can have that same sort of confidence to be able to say that. So,
my goodness, I have no confidence in any of Yoinkers right now. Absolutely rolling over them. It's Zarini on the Inara, last to die. No surprise there. Zarini was able to buy about 33% on that point, so ChromaSpace still playing catch-up as far as the mid-fight goes. But if the rest of these engagements go the way that first one did, my bets are all on ChromaSpace's side, especially when you look at Corio, able to control some space like this. Zarini looks like was able to swoop underneath there, underneath the fidget spinner side, and maybe find some space down low. Good lad, not taken out just yet. Instead, it's Etsu. Zarini did kind of slip by there, down onto the low ground. Can the Inara around the side make a big difference? Not just yet. Logi hasn't been able to find any comfortable positioning so far here in this game. Overtime is on. Zarini plugs a kill over onto Nepo. The knockback up and over is going to immediately follow up into a stun, as Rainy will get the kill onto Zarini. ChromaSpace playing with their food at this point, and Etsu will take a tumble. Rainy rampaging through the game here. Actually looking like Good Lad maybe wants to move into this one. Finds the stun onto a couple. It's a Dread Serpent off to the side. Finally, this one comes to a close with ChromaSpace on top.
Yeah, and that's I'm glad you mentioned the fact that Logi wasn't able to find any more comfortable positioning, because of the fact that that means that obviously Nepo is doing his job right on this Andro. He's making sure that Strix is as uncomfortable as he possibly can be. Every time the Strix wants to try and set up, you already have Corio and you have Nepo that are already on the side trying to keep that pressure on the Strix. When you had up on the high ground that the Andro was trying to fly up and make sure that Logi was as uncomfortable as possible. Let's say that he did kill the Andro. We already had Corio right next to him as well. They already knew what they wanted to do. They knew what their strategy was, and they're playing and executing it very, very effectively, and it's working out for them.
Well, at this point, Yoinkers needs to pull up another big defense. The story of what we saw in game number 2 was ChromaSpace repeatedly running in on Yoinkers, but Yoinkers holding strong on the defensive side. So we'll see a Splitstone Quarry. Maybe has a different story. Not often a map, though, that does have a different story, huh? You capture the mid-fight, and the defense so difficult to break because of this. You have a Cassie gunning down on you, a triple kill for Etsu, and a soft 3. It's an official double. Finally, Adium gets that kill. But Fawn, I can't imagine many more difficult compositions to push into than a Strix and a Cassie with a Ram and an Inara controlling the low ground.
Right, I entirely agree with that, and I would agree with it a little bit more if they weren't doing such a good job of making sure that that Strix was locked down. At that point in time, they just ended up losing the mid-fight, so you're 100% right. It is hard to push into a composition like that unless you're doing what they're doing, is just ignoring the sidelines of the Strix and making sure that they're trying to control everything else. The assert dominance, you have a lot of pressure that's on there, and that means that because everyone else has the eyes that are already on the lower ground, that means that Strix has to fend for himself, which is exactly what happened. Terminus went right up into the top. Adium caught eyes on him, found him, and then of course him and Nepo just converged on him, got him from both sides, and that just made it a really, really hard fight for Logic to be able to try and win in that situation. Ovo finding a pick of his own, that's a testament to how well he's got to play right now.
Well, Zarini snags the double kill, finally cleans up some of the low health bars that Yoinkers had set up. His next big trades, 15 or so seconds left in this push. These are going to really dictate how much of a chance ChromaSpace really has, and we're gonna have to keep our eyes on what ultimates are used as well going in to the next mid fight. Often it's just kind of this one trade, one way or another, really shows which direction the teams want to go with this one. Deep into the backline is Coriel on this Ashe, a cursed arm from Nepo. That one's used, and it's her dominance as well. ChromaSpace want to roll this one through. Shred Serpent finds some value on the backside, but Logi is stealthed through it.
Man.
Rainy is able to run him down though, so a win there for ChromaSpace, but the respawns, they're not killing them fast enough here. Zarini's still alive. This Rom's still running around off on the side. There are too many health bars clashing against one another. And so all the ultimates that are used, 3 from ChromaSpace, haven't quite found the value, I don't think, that they've looked for. Overtime being reset, but finally pushed back, and Yoinkers will complete the defense.
Yeah, they were able to get the picks that they wanted. Good assert dominance, good Dread Serpent to be able to try and peel off the Strix even when he was invisible. The timers weren't the issue there. It was the targets that were lost during that fight, because when it boiled down to it and you saw exactly what was happening, when you zoomed out and looked at everything, Adium, Coriel, and Ovum were the only 3 that were left and remaining on that point. But they still had their damage dealers on the side of Yoinkers. And they also had the defender's advantage situation where they would already have the spawn right next to where the cart was eventually pushing. Right. So when those people ended up respawning, it made it a lot harder for ChromaSpace to try and hold the point time and time and time again, which means that they eventually were just going to lose the fight. They couldn't stall it for that much longer, and there was no reason for Adium to use that res to try and stall it. So.
Yeah, look at those damage charts. You got Term on top, immediately followed up by Coriel on the Ashe. Vivian, or Rainy a little bit lower down. Strix kind of MIA from the damage charts. The frontliners for ChromaSpace are controlling this game. Unable to push it through last time around, though. Getting rid of the Ashe. Big win there for Yoinkers to start this one off. Illusory Rift keeps those health bars nice and topped off. And actually, he's going to get a kill as well over on the Adium. Reanimate not used this time around. Yoinkers, 51%, found themselves an advantage on the point.
I like the positioning from, I guess, FRZO is what we should call him at this point in time, right? I like the positioning from the Ying to be able to be up there with Logi and just help him out. You know, when he's being looked at by different people, whether it's the Andro or whoever it is that might make his way up there, she wants to be able to peel for him. She was a little bit split for him last time and couldn't really make the heals necessary, which is why he was getting hit so often. So good adaptability on the side of Yoinkers to be able to try and pull that out. But of course, as soon as I say that, Adium gets the res kill, and Nepo ends up diving directly onto the back line of Logi. So that makes it that much harder.
Checkerboard of kills here as the pivotal point in this mid fight. Good lad and Zarini. We'll find a couple here from the front line. The Rom starting to find an opening on the back here. Is Omen able to stay alive? Finds the stun. Juggernaut runs on through. How hard is it to lock down this Rom? Plenty. Answers back. Yoinkers. ChromaSpace make their way back onto the point. The peppering of health over onto Rainy as Good lad will pick up the kill there as well. Finally, Coriel was able to turn around and get rid of this Rom. A cursed arm up from Nepo. Maybe just buying some zone here. Doesn't want to use all those charges on the Inara, realizing how healthy she is. Logi, mid-air snipe. 99 to 69. ChromaSpace still a chance to fight back into this one. Logi needing to hit some shots here, unable to do so as Ovim gets the kill there. Zarini finds the last few stones to drop down. A double kill now on this mid. Seismic crash.
Nice.
They could have stopped 3 for Zarini. Just needs a few more shots for the stop for Zarini. Running through this mid. Can he make it? The full-on sweep, I'm not so sure here. One more. No. Good lad takes it. It's the official 3, soft 4 for Zarini, and Yoinkers cap the point.
Very, very well done by Zarini. I mean, he just had the better position. I mean, it just really just came down to that. He knew where he wanted to be. He was able to not only contest on point, but make sure that he provided support for his team, not only with the seismic crash and making sure that he was actually able to get that kill, but also able to make sure that he was just drawing eyes towards him, just making him a hard target to ignore. Despite the fact that Inara doesn't do that much damage, it still made it that much harder to try and keep her away from the point. They were already locked down. They knew they wanted to do it. When they approached the team fight with that plan, it made it that much easier for them to be able to capture that point.
Yeah, Zarini's pretty good at the game, huh? I think him and Paladins are a match made in heaven here as he starts to run through ChromaSpace just a little bit more on this Inara. Logi, you know, we looked at damage charts going into this last mid-fight, and Logi was somewhat further down, I think, than maybe the Strix would hope. All things considered, ChromaSpace, you know, they got the cap, failed on the defense. Now Yoinkers have turned around, got a cap for themselves here. Logi looking for maybe a little bit of extra presence maybe out of the Strix as this game takes a turn towards the Yoinkers side.
Exactly. As this card is rolling on, and you already see that Logi is taking the more foreground positioning, just making sure that he's trying to get whatever damage he can while the rest of his team is rolling this card right on around. Because he knows once it presses around that corner, it's going to be a lot harder to try and fight as effectively if everyone's already at full health. And that's exactly what I was talking about. When that situation, he's trying to get earlier game damage, but he can't find it in time. And so therefore, Coriel and them are just going to be able to run rampage just like they are right now.
Well, looks like we're maybe bound for mid-fight number 3 here as ChromaSpace successful on the defense. Complete teeter-totter of ultimate tier, I think well-timed on a few of those from Yoinkers, realizing with 30 seconds left you're going to be able to get a couple of those ults right back towards that ready state for the next mid-fight. ChromaSpace all 5 ready to go, so maybe the defensive side a little bit more wary of how they're going to use their ults here with 15 seconds left. Cart still plenty close, so a few trades could put Yoinkers in a position to capture. Nepo sneaks out from the shadows around the backside. He goes. Logi, again, he just cannot get comfortable here in this game. Nepo punches him down. No Strix here. Rainy gets the kill onto the Ying. This is going to be a good defense here for ChromaSpace. Nepo hitting the final shots there, and we are all tied up once more.
Yeah, and that's really unfortunate for Logi. I mean, you want to be able to bring out the Strix and try and do what you can. Andrew at the top of the damage charts now, and no longer the no longer the terminus. And yeah, wow, Cassie and Strix both just a little bit above the damage of the supports and below pretty much everyone else. I mean, that's kind of unfortunate because that's not the perspective or the sort of performance you want out of both of your DPSs, with that being the case. But I'm glad that you brought that up, because the fact that they are making it not easy for Logi to hit the shots that he wants to get the damage lead that he wants to, or to pretty much do much of anything. He will when the rest of the picks come through on the side of his team, but for the most part, Logi is just not able to have a good game. He's just being looked at by too many people and being burnt just as effectively.
Yeah, lots of good value out of the frontline picks that we've seen from ChromaSpace here. Sentinels for Rainy. Going to control the left side of the fight here. Cursed Arm as well from the high ground. Nepo, one more dash, puts him in a position. One connects with the roof there. And immediately healed up by that illusory rift. Seismic crash from Zarini. Had the soft quad in the previous mid-fight. Needs some more of it here. Look at that healing, though. Keeps Logi alive just for a second. He's positioning himself down here on the low ground by this fidget spinner side, which I find so interesting. And you know, I think ChromaSpace are thanking him for it this time around. The base has been cracked as Yoinkers still have a few ultimates ready to go, but a killing spree from Coriel will prevent the blue side from finding much here in this next mid. One more chance, maybe, Fawn, for Yoinkers to get back in.
Okay, this is a situation. Okay, yeah. If this was a ranked game, this is the situation where Logi would be like spamming, like, I need peel, I need someone to help me every time. Claiming, giving VHS, just spamming his team the entire time. Because you see that both Coriel and Nepo were pushing all the way into the backside. They asserted dominance for him. They didn't want to make it any easier than they needed to. They used a lot of ultimates to make sure they could reclaim that fight on the side of Yoinkers, while ChromaSpace are sitting on 96% right now, with the score being tied at 2-2. So there is no comeback mechanic. With that being the situation, makes it a lot harder. And also, all the way in the back, Coriel's still back there wreaking havoc the entire time. So it's already a 4-on-4. He's already got somebody super low. Inara has to feel back to deal with it right now.
It is a split fight, 1-for-1 trade though. 99% for ChromaSpace, overtime on, overtime off. A Cursed Arm from Nepo. Melts down a good bit of damage onto Goodlad. Finds the final shot, and the Rom has been taken out of this fight. He won't do it. One more shot. Zarini's there to turn it around. 2-for-2 trade now. Yoinkers, one member back behind on the respawn. Overtime is off, and ChromaSpace have won this mid fight a chance to win the game.
Yeah, that is very, very well played by Corio. I will say that. Even though it ended up being a 1-for-1 trade, he was one of the reasons why they were able to do so well. He forced so many eyes to turn around and look back at him. The Ying in this situation was just stuck back there with him. Already low health. Anar and the rest of them had to peel back, and now you have a situation like this where he's still creating space for his team. This is the type of performance that you want to see on your Ashe, where you see this happening. You want her to be able to charge in, create that space, and make it harder for the priority targets, especially like Strix, to do anything, because now you have everybody split. Zarini's by himself in the front, while the card's still rolling, because everyone else has to respect the Ashe that's pushing in Mineshaft.
I will gladly eat crow for, you know, wondering where his Ashe would stand, with resilience being in the spot that it is, and still finding, you know, the presence, the aggressiveness, the ability to dive into the backline. Really the ultimate that's the most mitigated, maybe the kinetic burst. Slowed down a little bit, a double kill from Nepo. Watch out here, ChromaSpace surrounding the final corner. Zarini biding his time, up goes the wall, but down goes his health bars. Nepo has found the kill. Respawns, all 5 waiting for Yoinkers. Couple members now back up, both the squishies. Raji, Goodlad, both join them in the back. Can Corio buy enough space? Did not dismount the Rom, who's able to make his way through, so the contest is here, but Corio just farming up damage. You better believe if ChromaSpace get these ultimates in the next minute, which they will not hesitate to use them, maybe win the game. Goodlad moves his way forward, has the Cataclysm, but guns down Ovim once more. Raji trying to stay alive, able to do so, but now we're kind of flip-flopped around. Yoinkers respawns and is able to slow this one down and defend for the moment.
40 seconds still remaining on the clock means they have plenty of time to group back up and give it one last final push for this round to see what the deal is. In this situation, though, you can't really have a lot of people split off as before unless Yoinkers overextends, because of the fact that, I'm bringing that up, the positioning factor, because of the fact that this is what, see, look at Corio, just Gremlin, waiting in the mist, just trying to make sure that he can get on top of Logi as easily as he can and wreak havoc on him. Nepo's over there too, as well. Puts up the reversal to make sure he doesn't die, but he still goes down anyway.
Good couple of kills here from Yoinkers, bodes well for the defensive chances. Power Siphon's going to get sniped down by Logi, so the Strix kind of just defaulting into good damage space from the spawn there. Once more, we are headed to a 0.7 here between Yoinkers and ChromaSpace. And this one's a lot more difficult to call, I think, than Stone Keep, where it was one-sided on all the mids. This one has been very back and forth fun. Tough to say who's going to win the mid.
Yeah, I said it last time on Stone Keep, and I don't mean to say it again, but I think it is very important to bring up, is the fact that it is going to come down to ultimate usage. Corio, Yoinkers now knows the game plan. They know they want to sit on top of Logi. That's what Corio's been doing this entire time. He's been using the assert dominance, he's been creating a lot of space, and if he can't get Logi, he goes for Ying. That's literally what's been happening every single time, which is why that mid-fight was won by Chroma. They had to turn so many eyes to look, because even though he wasn't able to get the kill instantly, Corio still got the kill on the support that was already really low all the way in the back line, which made it that much harder to try and play how they wanted to. So here we go again. Corio's actually going to opt to not push up this time, but I mean, it can still be a good fight. You know?
So the time is now. The Yoinkers frontliners on either side of the mid-fight here. Zarini's going to throw out the seismic crash. Can they get the kill? Over onto the Vivian, not just yet. Goodlad zoned on back, finds a big stun there. Rainy's going to be the kill. Etsu has found the first and the second. A double kill for the Cassie. And suddenly, ChromaSpace are overrun. There is a reanimate way in the back of Yoinkers. I'm not sure you want to use it there. 60% for Yoinkers. ChromaSpace still a chance.
I absolutely love that, and I was so sick to be able. They were so sick to be able to see that. They went, okay, we know that Corio wants to be in the back line as much as possible, so why don't we just be more aggressive for it? Like, why don't we just do that situation, right? That's what they did. They pushed in all the way through Mineshaft because they know that people didn't want to be over there. But that's a huge assert on the side of ChromaSpace.
And Corio's going to open up this fight. Ovim snags one as well. Zarini pushed up against the wall. The retake attempt looking successful. Let's see how long Goodlad can last. Maybe by his team. Enough time to get back into the fight. Logi does fall to Nepo on the back side of the engagement here. This is what we saw last time around, remember. ChromaSpace nearly won the game on the final push. 60% for them. Yoinkers back and respawning, climbing up slowly. 75%. Nepo out onto the low ground here. Serini up and over. Can they slow him down enough to prevent him from moving in? 90% being cascaded. 93, 99, and Serini not in time. ChromaSpace, the zone successful enough to take the lead in this set 2-1.
I really liked how both teams played that so effectively, because we can look at it from both angles, from both ChromaSpace and Yoinkers. On the side of Coriel, Coriel was creating so much space by drawing so many eyes to look towards him. And it also gives me an opportunity to show how they were able to adapt on the opposite side with the Strix, with Logic.
Right.
They knew that he was being so aggressive in the back line. So they straight up just went, yo, why don't we just be more aggressive than they are to us? We can just push them out, force them away from these fights. And that ended up winning them the earlier fight, but it still ended up costing them the game in the long run, which is unfortunate.
Well, fun yesterday to start off the phase 2 of the PPC. EU win all 5 games. A bunch of those games win 7 points. EU may be looking like the most contested region for what we've seen so far. This one very similar. We've gone only 3 games, at least 4 games, but a couple of them have gone 7 points, back and forth from both of these teams. Cannot wait to see how this one plays out. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a quick break. Stick around. Yoinkers versus ChromaSpace continues right after this.
To the ocean floor, fading light through an open door. I saw myself rise with the water.
Well, it is time to keep this one going. Yoinkers versus ChromaSpace headed into a game number 4. ChromaSpace up 2-1 here. up to this point after a back and forth set. Pretty lengthy games up to this point, Fawn. Warder's Gate is where we'll head for map number 4. Always like seeing some games here on this map. Continued, though, Genos ban. Strong enough in that support role to warrant a ban in every single game up to this point.
Yeah, but you would think that saying that, okay, we don't want to deal with the pocket pick, and yet here we are with one of the more prominent pocket picks still not being picked in this situation. Corvus still hasn't been.
We're not happy about this, right?
No, me personally, I'm not, because to me, it doesn't make any sense. Like, you have so much on the side of Corvus, and yet you're not locking him in, but you're banning the Genos, which means you're recognizing the pocket as a threat, but not enough to pick another pocket. I don't quite understand.
So here's what I'm picturing. It's the Charlie Kelly meme from Always Sunny, where he's got the map up on the wall and all the strings, and Fawn is staring at the. You don't want this pocket pick, but you're gonna leave this one open. Not quite as like intertwined. I think it's literally you don't like the pocket healing, but there's still one available, so why not? Interesting. I mean, I'm on board with you here, Fawn. That Corvus has been left open up to this point. Let's jump into game number 4. See if Yoinkers is able to tie this one up, or if ChromaSpace is going to take the set. Ying, Terminus, Cassie, Rom, and Andro for one side. Got the Damba, Ash, Inara, Vivian, Zin on the other. So, pretty continued, I would say. A shuffling of kind of the 10 champions that we've seen in each of the games up to this point, but as far as totally new compositions, maybe a little extra variety, but not necessarily new champs. Rainy playing those angles very well. ChromaSpace has found that angle, forced back Zarini down to half HP. Fun! Wide and surprised at how this one has started.
Me personally, I'm not that surprised with how everything has started, because of the fact that I'm watching Coriel just do what he's been doing, man. He's on this Ash, and he is forcing them to leave every single time. They can't stand where he is. He has the cooldown on the shoulder bash. He has 32% extra damage reduction when he's using that shoulder bash because of one of the cards. So with that being the situation, it makes it that much harder to deal with him. Because of that, I mean, they have to respect him at that point. Like, they just have to. And he's gonna get connected person. Oh, bye, Ron. Goodbye. All right. Well.
Oh, my man takes a one-way flight to the bottom of Warder's Gate there. ChromaSpace at 75%. I don't think there's a chance Yoinkers makes their way back into this one. Look, you know whose fault this is really is mine, because I for a moment on Stone Keep questioned whether or not Ash was still as strong in this meta, or Resilience was as cheap as it was. And now we've just seen back-to-back-to-back games where Ash is just kind of running at the enemy team, and they can't do anything about it. So look, I'll gladly stand corrected here on this one, because ChromaSpace have been absolutely better off because of it. Dreads have been paired into the ultimate dare from Adium, and Etsu does not get a chance to play the game just for a few moments, and now has to wait longer to respawn. Juggernaut actually gets good lad out alive. My goodness, Ram is pretty strong as well. Payload's going to round this next corner here, and it's the Yoinkers who are actually finding a couple of defensive kills. So ChromaSpace waiting for a few respawns. Aggressive whirl forward from Rainy. Coriel again, exerting some pressure here. Good lad goes down. ChromaSpace keep the cart rolling.
I like the play being made by the Zen as well. The fact that he wants to be able to move up, get that aggression, even gets a little bit more of extra damage off onto the Ying because of the fact that he knows that he can get right back out with Billows, which is exactly what it was that he ended up utilizing. With that being the situation, it means they have even more aggression on the side of ChromaSpace, not only with Coriel creating this much space, but because of the fact that Zen is also able to do what he wants to and focus who he wants to because of Coriel doing what we just saw on Splitstone, drawing so many eyes towards him, and because of that, we're at a 2-0.
All right, so, if I'm going to sit here and tell you Yoinkers has 1 kill after the first couple of points, is that good or bad?
If you would have told me the names on the team of Yoinkers and you would have said they had 1 kill, I thought you would have been trolling me, those.
Yeah, well, Zarini's the one with a kill, so I guess that's not surprising. But the only one with a kill, I mean, decimated.
Right.
From the onset of this one is ChromaSpace absolutely slammed through Yoinkers. I mean, you need a total reimagining of strategy, I think, if you're Yoinkers at this point going into this mid-fight.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe they need to make sure that they at least try and keep more eyes on the Ash, but at this point it might be a little bit too late because of the assert dominance. I'm I'm not too sure where they're falling flat here. I mean, Andrew's doing exactly what he's been doing, where he's using the accursed arm, getting that pick like he has before. That's already an even better start than how last time went around. But at the same time, if they're only utilizing the ultimates in situations like that, that's all they can get, then they might be in more trouble than we expect.
Yoinkers finding some momentum here, gonna completely overlap their kill count from the first mid-fight, but look at that, ChromaSpace able to build up 51%. Full-on fast cap for Yoinkers is gonna put them in a good spot here for the remainder of this mid-fight. Good lad. Moves himself forward, looking for maybe some dismounts around the corner. ChromaSpace really just funneling into one spot here. I can't imagine a great place to be fighting against a ROM. Oriole around the backside here as ChromaSpace continue to try to fight back in and assert dominance at the last moment might be needed. Does end up reaching down onto the point, so Yoinkers back themselves off. Wait for that ultimate to time out. Seismic crash from Adium. Oh, they're not able to find the final shot onto Laji. Now it's a Dread Serpent from ChromaSpace. Full-on retake attempt is here. 57%, now 60 to Yoinkers 97. Laji left uncontested. Off to the side here. Zarini will pick up the kill. Down on the Nepo. The dodge roll keeps him alive again. How many times has Etsu stayed alive as Zarini will get rid of the Zin? The trades back and forth. ChromaSpace fighting tooth and nail on the point pawn. Not sure who's going to come out ahead.
Not too sure either, Dolson, especially when you have a situation where you don't have the Dread Serpent at your back, but you're still able to win most of these trades that are happening right now. If Adium goes down, which he does, and that's going to be a lot harder for them to try and keep control over this point. However, they're still winning the fight. Zin is there with the Yomi. That's what it is. He moved around. What did I say? Corio's creating the space, and Zin is finding a way in. Look at what's happening off of the fight. My goodness, that was so well played by Chroma.
It was absolutely masterfully played. And it looks like, and it came at a time where it looked like Yoinkers were going to run away with the mid there. So now down 3-0 after as back and forth of a set as we have had. This would be frustrating, I think, for Yoinkers to go out this way. The momentum just not stopping. Etsu now takes a tumble. Off the map goes the Terminus as Corio gets the boop there. Laji gets one trade back. The train keeps chugging on, and it's ChromaSpace who are not getting denied.
Yeah, at this point in time, I mean, they are the ones that have such an aggressive zone that Adium is really standing at the entrance to their spawn and taking shots all sorts of angles because of how much space they are able to garner on the side of ChromaSpace. And with that being said, using a Dread Serpent, that might be the start of another pick, and it is.
Wow, and Etsu goes down. Laji, an important one to pull back as Nepo goes down on this Vivian. Rainy down low. He's going to stay alive as well. Corio is here to play as well. Good lad, quite low. Gets a little bit of healing, but not enough to fully get him back into the fight. One more shot from Rainy would have gotten it done, but now the ROM back to half HP. Etsu around the corner. Some good flick shots there from himself. Scout thrown out. Minute and 10 seconds left. Shoulder bash right on in from Corio. Assert dominance sniped out of the sky. Fun, that might be enough to buy Yoinkers some time.
Yeah, I definitely think it will be. As you see, as soon as Corio died, they all decided to back off, and now that they've had the shoe on the other foot, Yoinkers can now try and get their own zone going, or at least put up a very strong defense for them to try and get back to the cart, which means that this could be a turning point for them, potentially. Depends on if they get any other pick before they all make it back to side, but it seems like they don't want to keep their foot off of the gas. They're already back in it, and they're already back into the fight on the side of ChromaSpace.
Well, Nepo is able to pull back one. Good lad. Snags the kill as well. Corio assert dominance up onto the high ground. Knocked back here. 28 seconds left. Laji waits for it to time out. Rainy doing battle on the back line with Good lad here. So another one pulled back by ChromaSpace. I haven't seen a clean one full 5v5 yet from either team. 15 seconds left. ChromaSpace still some time.
Well, with Corio gone, it seems like they opt to want to try and get there. Maybe at the last second to try and contest. And Corio just getting back means that he'll have another opportunity to try and do what he just did, which is stand at their spawn door and try and trap people as best as he can. And Nara causing that overtime, that's going to mean a lot. But a ROM ultimate to try and start things off on the top.
Good lad stays alive. Andy gets the kill over on the Nepo. The defense right now for Yoinkers, the knockback kinetic burst from the high ground. Corio. Yoinkers actually going to use some ultimates here, so it looks like the defense will stand strong. Corio is just going to take the shoulder bash away, deny a little ult charge to the opposite side. So finally, Yoinkers can take a deep breath, but they've got to reassess their mid-fight entirely. Haven't won one yet.
Yeah, that is a very, very good feeling if you went from having only one kill on the team to now everyone at least has something on the side of Yoinkers. They're able to actually fight back as best as they can against ChromaSpace, especially with how aggressive Quariel has been. Despite the resiliences, he's still able to create a lot of space because, like I said in the very beginning when the setup first started, it's less so about this actual CC on the ultimates and what those bring. Quariel, sure, use the ultimate. The stun isn't for as long, but when you use an assert dominance at the spawn door and neither the DPS nor the support can get out of their spawn, then that says all you need to know about the assert dominance and why it's being used and why he decided to go with this pick so many times.
I think it's an interesting spot though. If we're looking specifically that it's on the spawn door, it does prevent Yoinkers from getting into the fight. But it also leaves Quariel kind of doing nothing there just for a second, waiting for that assert dominance to time out. Neither here nor there. The assert dominance very strong. But maybe a different usage here will help ChromaSpace capture the next mid-fight. A Dread Serpent is going to spread out Yoinkers just a little bit here. 1-for-1 trade so far. Sentinel's ready to go, but so is the Accursed Arm as Etsu will find the shots down onto Quariel. Yoinkers suddenly riding some momentum. Up and over goes Etsu. And now it's just down to 1 as Adium will fall and Yoinkers have retaken the mid.
A nice double kill from Etsu as well, using that Accursed Arm to make sure that he held on to it for a little bit longer until he saw a target that he wanted to utilize it on, and then of course letting it go. That patience is exactly what you need when you have an ultimate as powerful as Accursed Arm to be able to pick off one or maybe even a couple of targets, which is what allows Yoinkers to be able to be on site like they are right now in this situation.
Aji finds the kill onto Quariel. ChromaSpace low health and a bit spread out here, so I don't like their chances of fighting back in here. Etsu will dash forward. Adium knocked away. The health too low, and Nepo is in time, but he's spent his life for it. So Yoinkers now riding a bit of a wave of momentum, Fawn, and I guess that's the way Paladins goes. You get kind of blown out of the water the first few fights. You can find one mid-fight for yourself, and now a chance to tie.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably as great of a fight as you would have won on the side of Yoinkers. Etsu getting the first of those couple picks just made sure that they kept spiraling out of control on the side of ChromaSpace. Those picks were so important, and just as important as this ROM ultimate is, especially with the backup Illusory Rift, they want to fight.
Good Lad keeps rolling on forward, and Illusory Rift, as you mentioned, on his back. Very difficult to burn through that health bar, if not impossible. Laji, the final few shots over onto Quariel. The tug of war of this game continues. Nepo unable to output enough damage, but this time he is onto Good Lad. Laji dodge rolls forward, finds a shot on a Nepo. Adium falls to Zrini as well. On the other side of this fight, Uvim snipes up to the high ground. Goodbye, Laji. And this Maldamba finding max value on the backside.
Yeah, Laji tried to get out of that situation, but realized that he had his back literally to a rock and couldn't escape that, because that's why he turned around and tried to see if he could get out. But Owen was able to snipe him just in the nick of time to make sure they were able to get that pick. And with that being the situation, now you see ChromaSpace are able to clap back just as hard as Yoinkers were able to push in the car as effectively as they did.
Etsu finds an opening kill here. Maybe that is the space that Yoinkers needs. Is now Quariel will go down as well. Seismic Crash locks in a couple. Adium unable to follow up with any of the kills though. Everyone looking at this Inara, and she's able to stay alive. But for how much longer is the question. Not much is my guess. Zarina will get that kill. And Ovim will fall on the backside as well. 50 seconds left. 3 versus 5. Yoinkers rolling through. This cart is going to go in here, Fawn. Saving maybe a last-ditch effort to move in. Unsuccessful. And somehow we are tied.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we're at a 3-3. I mean, the effective usage of the Accursed Arm in the very beginning from Yoinkers meant that they were able to finally gain the footing that they wanted to off of the back of Etsu, as well as Zarini just having that point tank presence to be able to make sure that in case anybody was low, which is what he's done before, whenever somebody is low, on the side of Yoinkers, he would just put up a siphon and make sure that he peels for them as best as he possibly can, which goes without saying, but that is another reason as to why those fights went as well as they did, which means that since Yoinkers now have so many ultimates in the back pocket, they have a lot that they can utilize to make sure they can end up coming out on top of this mid-fight, especially when that Illusory Rift comes up, which will be extremely soon.
Might even just be on the way to the mid-fight without having to heal or deal any damage. Big difference here. No Seismic Crash for ChromaSpace. Maybe the big turnaround. Accursed Arm is going to get used. DR not enough. Quariel goes down first overall. Ying now adding a kill onto Obim as well. It's the full-on sweep here. Once the Zin goes down off the map, he goes. Double kill for Good Lad and Yoinkers. They do spend a good few of their ultimates still to reanimate. ChromaSpace unable to pull the trigger on theirs.
Right, but at the same time, they were, I believe they were saving their ultimates for this upcoming fight. To be able to force out those ults so quickly means that Choreo wants to be able to do this. Exactly, move in and is probably going to use the Assert Dominance extremely soon while the rest of ChromaSpace just come in and sweep slowly off of the back of Choreo. Well, just like that.
Oh, he bangs his head on the archway, and it's the perfect Assert Dominance there to lock down Etsu. ChromaSpace on the fight back in, 93% for Yoinkers. Double kill now for Nepo. Reanimate from Zerini, plugs down, a little bit of damage, moves his way back over to the point, stay alive, try to contest as much of this percentage as he is able to. Power Siphon finding some value, immediately spited. Seismic crash down, but that one catches a clone. They did not kill off the Terminus just yet somehow. Finally, Adium is able to get that one. Double kill for the Inara on the midpoint. 93% for Yoinkers still. 57 maybe climbing for ChromaSpace. Good lad though, will get rid of Ovim on the backside of the fight. Sram lurking deep down below, waiting for somebody from Yoinkers to move their way in, or rather for ChromaSpace to move their way back in. Adium, good lad now going toe-to-toe with one another. A little damage supplemented by the DPSs elsewhere in this fight. Overtime is on. Yoinkers starting to find some kills. Goodbye to Choreo, and look at the health bar on Adium. Absolutely melting here. Yoinkers could run away with this fight if they're able to get the kill onto the Inara, but it's a Dread Serpent that sends Zerini running to the side. Nepo gets the kill over onto Laji. Stunned down. Double kill from Zerini. Overtime off. Yoinkers. Triple kill from Zerini, and Yoinkers are going to tie up this set. Hopefully, once Choreo goes down, or else I look very stupid. And they are going to get the kill onto Choreo. And there it is. Yoinkers able to tie it up.
That was so well played by Yoinkers. And for a second, I thought every single time ChromaSpace were going to make their not make their comeback, but they were going to end up re-sweeping, or at least reverse sweeping, what Yoinkers had set up for them in the very, very beginning when they got that first game. And the thing was that Adium was able to get a lot of those last hits on different people. They may have not been able to get the kills, but every kill that they got was a trade. The discrepancy, the problem that happened was that Adium was one of the only members left remaining, and Choreo had just made it back. When Adium was low, he dropped down while Choreo was coming onto point, and two people were already looking at him. Adium was waiting for healing. Choreo went in a little bit too early, and because of that situation, they lost the fight, which means that Adium was still by himself alone with no other pressure on the side of the off-tank.
How many, what is that, 3 out of 4 so far have gone 7 points here in this set? I mean,
no big deal.
Nuts. I mean, you had what? You had a 12-1 set yesterday in Brazil, and I'm bringing the long, lengthy games back with me here. We're headed towards another game 5. This time, Fawn, we're going to Ice Mines with Atlas, Ruckus, Terminus, Inara all banned out. So for the first time, Genos will be available. Why not go to Ice Mines, right? Let's slow things down maybe a little bit more and really bring things to the edge for maybe another 0.7.
Yeah, I'm going to hope that since Genos is open, that means that they lock in Genos, and that means that they must pick Corvus this time, right? Or do they you would think that would actually be the situation. However,
that's interesting. I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm looking at drafts here, and it's another Corvus-less game. It's another Corvus-less game here. Genos is in, Maldamba for Yoinkers. So Maldamba has been, I think, 100% pick ban, if I'm pick rather. It hasn't been banned out yet. I think we've seen Damba in every game so far this set. Genos now making his way through. He's been 100% pick ban with a ban 4 out of 5 so far in the games. I am interested, though. I mean, there's something at play here where Corvus was seen pretty heavily yesterday and not at all so far in this set. But you look at these two drafts, a Bomb King now making his way here onto Ice Mines. Do you like one or the other here for Game 5?
In terms of the composition, I'm a big fan a little bit of ChromaSpaces just because of the aggression. Okay, like this is exactly what they want to try and do. They just want to out-aggress Yoinkers because they know they have the ROM and try and dive for that back line. They want to keep them from aggressing on the side of the Bomb King, but they also want to make sure that they have that aggression on because of the fact that they have the Genos at the back of 3 of their DPS that are on their team.
This is going to be so difficult to fight back into. Look at Adium just holding this corner here. There is a Drogo's for Etsu to maybe open up some space there. Hasn't quite come out to play just yet. Nepo gets the kill over on Laji, stunned down onto Zerini as Etsu is going to slow down what ChromaSpace are pushing forward with here. 51% for the blue side. The good lad pulls the kill onto Nepo. Etsu needs to stay alive, unable to do so as Choreo will shoot him out of the sky there. Rainy gets the kill onto Maldamba as well. ChromaSpace have stormed the gates. They found the kills, and Yoinkers are going to lose point number 1. ChromaSpace off to a great start.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. If you want to have somebody that is perfect at countering a situation, or that I should say countering the aggression it is that Yoinkers' composition might be able to try and utilize, especially off the back of that ROM, it is ChromaSpace's comp. You have the Genos to be able to stop that ROM, means that he doesn't get that DR, that 60% if he's using the Enforcer like he should be. He's not able to create a lot of space. Same thing for the Ash too, just rip him right out of the sky in case he tries to commit to any sort of situation with the Asserted Dominance. And you have the Bomb King with the Grumpy Bomb and just so much damage that you have to try and blow through, and that makes it that much harder. And then, like I said, you have a way to stop the aggression, but you also have a way to capitalize on it too, based off of the Genos, because now we see how aggressive they can still play despite that. Not even worried about the cart, they just got back onto it, but at the same time, they're keeping so much pressure on so many different people all at once.
Now Rom, it's Good Lad who gets locked down. ChromaSpace continuing to exert pressure here over Yoinkers. There's a Dread Serpent, Assert Dominance, Headhunter, all will be ready. ChromaSpace can put forth some pressure too. Ice Mine's though very interesting, I think, as far as ultimates go. I mean, still holds some of the same values as all the other maps do as far as when you want to use your ults, things like that. But Ice Mine's being so lopsided, it really is, as far as so quick maybe in calling some of these mid fights over. It really seems like
oh my goodness,
you want to go into the mid with all your ultimates, and Yoinkers a great chance to do so. A triple kill for Etsu. My goodness. This Drogos is hitting the shots, and he's delaying the quad as long as possible, farming up some damage there. Coriol does have his ultimate ready to go, but stagger is massive. There you go, Coriol. Get some value. Roll the card forward a little bit. Etsu, a very, very soft 4, but an official 3 as the Drogos get some value.
Yeah, Yoinkers just wanted to stagger him out as long as possible, considering the fact that he is literally their only tank, and if you peek, that happens. That's exactly why Zen and the rest of them were, not just the rest of them, but Zen is still mounted up and now is actually peeking that corner. You don't really have anybody that can tank the damage quite like Khan can if you're going to have a solo tank in this scenario. Good combustible, and even though he's running Fusillade, he is still locking down a lot of these choke points that Ice Mines has, especially up on the high ground that Zen's looking at right now. You have to be careful about how you approach this against a Drogos, especially one that's running Fusillade.
Right. Drogos is going to do a good bit of damage to you. A little bit extra now, though. ChromaSpace have fought back in despite the triple kill just a few moments ago. Etsu taking down Coriol Nepo. They both combined for a couple of kills. Rainy, the final shot, and that's all ChromaSpace needed all at once. It was the second chance on the push, and ChromaSpace will snag the 2-0 lead here in this game. No time and space. That one's big, but the other 9 ults ready to go for this mid-fight.
Right, exactly, and that's going to be pretty huge coming into this next go-around, considering the fact that Yoinkers are, once again, since we just saw this on Waters Gate happen, Yoinkers are the ones that are down currently. But at the same time, maybe when those items start coming back up, maybe when Rom and Zarini, which is exactly why I'm so glad they're doing this, because it's so important, especially with all the resilience changes, they're locking in that resilience first, because Genos is hard countering a lot of them. Coriol can do the same thing, even though he's not going the stun. He can throw Ash out of her Assert Dominance, and if he's quick enough, he can grab Rom as he is running, is the point. So having this sort of ability to be able to make sure you grab that resilience, not only just for the Genos, but for the Khan as well, makes it much more important, because you can act quicker out of the overpower as well when you have the resilience. So that being the case, it means that Ash can Assert Dominance right back on the site, but this Dragon Punch is going to be utilized almost instantly into Barn.
Yeah, Etsu finds the insta-delete over onto Adium, and that's a good up-down from Zarini. Is going to get the second kill over to Etsu. And sometimes, Fawn, that's all we need. We're only at 42%. ChromaSpace was unable to use 3 of their ultimates. Yoinkers still have 3 on their side. I don't see a world where the blue side gets back into contest. Oh!
Yeah, oh my goodness. Okay, Etsu. All right, my friend. I understand. You got it. You're good at Drogos. You really want to play Drogos.
You thought there was one sniper in this game. It's really legit.
Yeah, exactly. And that's also my apologies as well. I thought he was running Fusillade, because it just so happened that, you know, like when he hit with the salvo, he was critting a lot. He's actually running. Oh, he is running. Wow, that's weird. There are a lot of times
where he was actually. There you go, Fawn.
Never mind. I don't miss. Never mind. Don't even worry about it whatsoever. What I was figuring out was
now apologize for apologizing.
There we go. Now I'm sorry for being sorry in this situation. So with that being the case, I am going to say that Etsu in this situation, what was ended up happening that confused me was was that he was hitting people with the combustible and then hitting them even more so after the fact with the rocket, which is what was causing even bigger crits and even bigger damage. Because for those of you who don't know, if you hit somebody with the combustible and you don't actually blow it up, if you hit them immediately after that, it does more damage regardless. So that's why I was a little bit confused, because I saw the crits as well, and I was like, I don't know if that's because he's actually direct hitting them with the salvo, or if that's because of the
combustible,
but regardless, he's working out. I don't miss. I'm good. GG.
That's right, Fawn on top of the world here. Flawless from the kid. Even thought he overextended, but he was right all along. Now Yoinkers have to be cautious about overextending. ChromaSpace holding bridge control quite well here. King Bomb still available from the mid fight, so Adium might feel the need to use the ultimate to just keep Yoinkers at bay. Dragon Punch ready to go as well. Through time and space, no good this time around. I appreciate the fishing though. Looking for one would have given ChromaSpace a massive advantage. Instead, they're going to get it done the old-fashioned way. That's Nepo knocking a few shots into Good Lad. Look at Adium controlling the space so well. Shoulder bash away. Coriol gets one over onto Logi as well. ChromaSpace defense holding strong, and Yoinkers push back.
Coriol and Open finding one pick apiece means that, of course, this is a situation that is going to happen. They're going to be able to fight back, and especially on a map like Ice Mines that is so polarizing, once you get it going, it's hard to stop it because of the angles it is that you can approach. The fact that the map is so widespread means that it's easier for people to defend if they kill them closer to their own base, the respective team's base. It just makes it overall that much easier because now you see Zarini already lost most of his health trying to make it back to the cart, as opposed to a situation where he was already on the cart and they can't really be stopped because you saw how much of a lockdown they had when they were in control of high ground and near the payload.
Now here we go, Fawn. One more chance for Yoinkers to tie up this game. ChromaSpace may be able to hold on, give themselves the 3-1 lead. Good Lad will juggernaut his way through here. Grumpy Bound down onto the low ground is going to buy a little bit of time here. Forces the overtime meter to get reset. Zarini taking half HP, but so is the Khan on the other side. 3 kills all at once suddenly from Yoinkers. Oben pulls back the lowly one from ChromaSpace. A double kill for Good Lad, almost 3 around the backside. Zarini will get it, and this game is indeed tied.
Yeah, that's really a good look for Yoinkers, especially since ChromaSpace just had just as polarizing of a round last go around when they had 2-0'd them. Now Yoinkers is able to at least fight back in the way that they know how, which is pure unbridled aggression. When you have the resiliences coming online as well, that makes it a lot more harder to deal with if you're on the side of Genos. Ovum literally almost kept Rom from touching the point, which caused overtime based off of that grip it was that he had. If he didn't have that resilience, they would have lost that round then and there. But because of that,
5, 4,
which is why Good Lad is able to do as well, and Zarini is able to do as well. So,
indeed. And it looks like Master Riding is going to be the name of the game here. Nepo, you're so slow, man. You don't have Master Riding. You're not going to get into these fights quick enough. I say jokingly as he gets into the fight plenty fine anyway. That's up to Logi. It's been a quiet game from the Kinessa here. Up to this point, overpower onto Etsu, and the kill box will get it done here. ChromaSpace use their ultimates, find some kills for him this time around. Great shield, 114 HP. Can he stay alive? Coriol somehow finding a way to do so. Logi will melt through the shield and the health bar on the backside of things anyway. 1 kill already for the Kinessa here in this fight. Playing his corners well. Spike just for a little bit of mobility. Stunned down, but they can't get the kill over into Logi just yet. Adium, King Bomb rolling on through. Nobody on the other side for Yoinkers. Maybe the slowest percentage gain I've seen on an Ice Mines cap, 30% to 3. ChromaSpace technically in control.
Yeah, they're giving the other team, regardless if you're on ChromaSpace, you're giving Yoinkers respect, and on Yoinkers, you're giving ChromaSpace respect because of the Dragon Punch and because of the King Bomb. Everyone wants to play slower. Everyone has a lot of ultimates that can one-shot people, and if that's not even the case, then they have a lot of ultimates that definitely provide too much for the enemy team to overlook. So with that being the situation, you gotta respect it, which is why it's happening so slow. And there it is, the grab, almost instantly. You see the run starting up, you toss him back, and now he's gone.
There's something so funny about that interaction, and ChromaSpace are going to run away with this mid-fight, where you see this massive juggernaut running at you, and Coriol just kind of goes, hell no, and then just dashes into him, right? And then throws him way over. I love it from ChromaSpace, and they're able to now put themselves on not only game point, but set point after a back and forth set. They're at least going to go 6 out of 7 points here in this game as ChromaSpace a chance to move in. Scout, the only thing ready. Headhunter for Yoinkers, the only one on their side as well. It really seems like on this map, it's about how much time you can waste on the defensive side right around this area. And you've got a Kinessa on your side, Fawn. I imagine it can be very difficult for ChromaSpace to find any space.
Yeah, and this is exactly what it is that you're talking about. It's hard for them to find any space to be made, especially when you have Logi chilling in the back. Not really worried about too much, just popping heads where he sees them. And that's exactly the type of gameplay it was that we saw at the very beginning when Logi had first drafted the Kinessa. Just chilling out on Shadow Desert. Not really a lot of people forcing him off of high ground or forcing him to be too uncomfortable. And because of that, he's able to do his job and do it effectively, which is make sure that people, if he doesn't get the kills, he's at least spreading out as much damage as possible and a lot of high single target damage.
Well, we're going for mid-fight round 2 here as Yoinkers have pushed all the way back into ChromaSpace. A Dragon Punch traded out. And you know, as slow kind of goings and trudging through the snow as the last minute of this round might be, it's important to look at, you use that Dragon Punch, with a minute left, you do enough damage, especially on the Dread Serpent as well. You're probably going to get those ults back up in time for the mid-fight, but can't count it out quite yet. Ice Mines is a lengthier map, but once that cart gets moving, you're able to make up a lot of ground very quickly, and really for the last 30 seconds, Yoinkers are going to be defending from inside their base, a little bit too close for comfort.
They're at least able to get the kill onto Good Lad, which means that ChromaSpace now have an even better opportunity to push up like they were before. They're watching the stairs on the side of the high ground to make sure that they can't flank around behind them or get too much of an advantageous position on them. But at the same time, you have a situation like this where Nepo might be up a little bit too far and then has to retreat, which means they can't do what they want to. And because of that, Coriel is going to be the one to answer.
And unfortunately, Coriel takes a tumble here. And a long road back for the Khan from his side. Luckily, or maybe not so luckily, ChromaSpace does not have another tank, really, to take up that mantle. Rainy might have to move in, billow his way through, continue the overtime contest. Gonna have to dash in once more if you want to get the overtime touch. Instead, it's a dodge roll through. Coriel here to play. Nepo somehow stays alive. Ovim, though, does go down. So no health reimbursement for the next few seconds, and Coriel's going to learn that one the hard way. Yoinkers put themselves in a great spot here. At this point, just picking up the pieces. So we seem to be barreling towards a 0.7 on Ice Mines. Where else would we go, right? I mean, game 5, 0.7, EU, phase 2, Dolson. I mean, my goodness, we're headed towards another one. You got to look towards the ult here, and it's Red Serpent down and through time and space. Neither support ready to go.
Yeah, I'm super surprised to see this even. I can't say I'm super surprised to see this on Ice Mines, but at the same time, based off of how these previous games have been going, even though we are at a game 5, we're at another point as well. It just makes it that much more shocking that really this set has been going on for as long as it has. But it's so amazing to see because of the fact that both of these teams are adapting accordingly to the situation. We have the Rezil 3 online for Zarini. We have Rezil 2 for Good Lad on the ROM, which is fine. That's probably all it is that he's going to want to need, which is why he's investing in Master Riding 2, and he invested in the Nimble, and he has the Caught 3. That's probably why. Rezil 2 should be enough for him to pretty much get out of whatever situation it is that he might find himself in. But at the same time, I mean, you never know. I mean, he could end up cashing it out if this point goes on longer than you were expecting, but all Etsu does is end up getting killed in the very, very beginning of the fight.
Yeah, now he doesn't have his Dragon Punch for the rest of this mid-fight if he's even able to get back in. Adium Coriel, the first couple of kills here. Zarini, one final shot's all he needs. Does end up finding it onto Ovim. So thank God, says Etsu here. The Dragon Punch doesn't pay off, but the rest of Yoinkers able to find some kill pressure on this mid-fight. And they had 42%. It looked like ChromaSpace were in control kill-wise, Fawn, but they were not on the point at all. 60% in climbing now for Yoinkers.
Yeah, they had control of that fight, but like you said, they didn't have any control over the point, but they're going to have to do it off of the back of this King Bomb for sure.
The King Bomb does not find any value. Instead, Adium has to pop it early, stays alive this time around. Dread Serpent onto the backside. Damba moving in. Etsu gets the kill. Immediately traded out by Adium. Big fight here. Low health bars for ChromaSpace. It looks like Yoinkers have the damage. They sure do. Rainy, the last one in range. The Zin snags a kill, takes one with them. But now Ovim roots himself down, and Yoinkers run away with the game, and they take this set.
This was like a reverse sweep of a reverse sweep. It was like ChromaSpace had the lead for so long, and then they were really starting to make it look like they were about to win Ice Mines because it was tied up, and then eventually Yoinkers just said, all right, bet.
I'm making
And
them
they
work for it.
immediately just made them work for it throughout that entire time. And I'm glad that you brought that up because ChromaSpace, you were right. They got so many kills on the side of them, but they never converted any of it. They only really got the kills, and then I don't know what happened after that. No point percentage garnered for them at all, and Yoinkers just ended up sweeping up the rug from out under them.
Yeah, I think Yoinkers have to be thrilled with the way this one has gone. But I'm going to go back to it again here, Fawn. And you know, I know I believe the other EU game is going to get shown here at some point this weekend. But now we've seen 2 out of 2 sets here in EU go the distance with a lot of 7-point games in them. This one, I think now 4 out of 5 of those games were 6 or 7 points. So very lengthy over here in Europe. You guys are going to be showing that EU set tomorrow. So maybe keep your eyes on that one to be a little bit longer. That's it for Europe, though. That's the European portion of our day. Over to Brazil here after this one, Fawn. I think this is an interesting region. I kind of want to get some of your thoughts on this one. We're going to be watching Ignite versus Tempest team. Parallax Gaming, do you still think that's the team, though, to be chasing here in this Brazilian region?
I definitely would think so, especially after their performance yesterday. I would definitely try and make sure that you guys are on your A game, especially if you're going up against somebody like Parallax. I mean, we saw them yesterday do extremely well, and we can only hope that they would do well again today and show exactly why they are one of the most contested teams in the Brazilian region.
That's right, and you know, I sort of bring that up because if you're in these early weeks where you have a chance to get a win, if you're not playing against Parallax, you need to make full advantage of the. You're like, I need a win today because I know I'm not going to win whenever I go against Parallax. I say that, but you know, surprises happen. We saw them lose last phase as well. That's it for the European side of things here today. We're going to take a quick break, and ladies and gentlemen, when we come back, Ignite takes the stage up against Tempest.